Today is going to be a good day. Hi guys, Eric here, and welcome back to my channel. Today we will be having a look at this 2011 Porsche 911 Carrera GTS. This is the swan song of the 997 Carrera range. It comes equipped with an upgraded 3.8 litre flat six, and it is amazing. But allow me to tell you why. The 911 started production in 1962 as a rear-engined, rear-wheel drive 2+2 sports car with a flat-six engine. And with the exception of four-wheel drive to some models and a change of engine cooling from air to water in 1998, it is still the exact same formula for the brand new 911s that are still in production today. And this isn't the only place where Porsche remained extremely stubborn. When it comes to its design, the 911 is the perfect example of evolution versus revolution. With the exception of the much maligned 996, it can be quite tough for a novice to tell certain models apart, especially from the front. I myself still sometimes struggle to tell the 968 and the 993 apart when they drive past me. Only the rear gives it away. Since the introduction of the 993 variant in 1994, the 911's range has consisted of the following models. The Carrera, which was the entry level so to speak, the Carrera S, which had stiffer suspension, upgraded brakes and a bigger engine, and at the very top was the 911 Turbo. But as the years progressed, the gap between the 911 Carrera S and the Turbo grew bigger and bigger. Porsche tried to fill it with the lightweight version, the GT3, but a lot of people considered that too hardcore. Then, with the 997 in 2011, Porsche released a limited edition GTS that had a stronger 3.8 litre engine, upgraded brakes and suspension from the regular Carrera S, along with a lot of Alcantara, which could be removed as an option. Lastly, you even had center-lock wheels. There was such a positive reaction from the public that Porsche included the GTS moniker to the 997 successor, the 991, as the swan song in the Carrera range, as well as to its Boxster, Cayman, Cayenne, Panamera and Macan products. I personally really love the look of the GTS. I've always found the Carrera S to be too similar to the standard Carrera, especially from a design standpoint. That is no bad thing, however, because the 997 is beautiful in its own right. What I like about the GTS is that it successfully straddles the line of being true to the original without being too boring. To me, there are two things that stand out on the GTS. Those beautiful black 19-inch center-lock wheels, as well as the wider track. They do a great job of showing the world that this is something special. With the removal of the Alcantara leather on our test unit, the interior might seem a bit too similar to the facelifted Carrera and Carrera S, but as I will show you, that is no bad thing. Step into this low-slung beauty and you're presented with many clues of this car's long and prestigious history. Unlike its predecessor, the 996, this cabin rather mimics the general design of the 993 from the mid-1990s. The general design is rather boxy and angular. This is quite interesting, especially considering Porsche's current design language and the host of technological masterpieces they throw at it. With the 997, however, with the exception of the sat-nav screen, the interior has a rather back-to-basics feel to it. It's as though Porsche doesn't want to distract you from the main event. This is accentuated by this beautiful analog clock that protrudes out of the dash. The center console goes down at an almost 90-degree angle and houses the central air vents, which oddly points down, the infotainment system as well as the climate controls. Now, it is important to note that the general design dates back all the way to 2004, and considering the interiors we were offered back then, the 997 hides its age really well. There are some telltale signs that carbon dates it just a bit, such as the infotainment screen that is rather pixelated, as well as the many buttons, but I will never complain about that. Considering how well-renowned Porsche is for its level of materials used in their cabins, I am rather surprised by the amount of painted plastic found in the inside of the 997. The air vent surrounds as well as the gearbox surrounds being the most prominent, and it lets down the cabin a bit. Thankfully, it isn't nearly as bad as the 996, which buttons reminded me of buttons used in a 1990s Ford Escort. The infotainment screen is surprisingly responsive to my touch, and it is quick to load different menus. All the buttons are ergonomically very well thought out, and there are even some thin chrome strips that accent a few shortcut keys. It is a very well connected system for a car its age as well. The only thing I am missing is Bluetooth audio. There is Bluetooth for making phone calls, however, a USB port as well as an auxiliary port. The standard fit sound system performs really well, but there is a Bose system available for all us audiophiles. The climate controls could not be more foolproof, and I love the toggle switches for the fan speed and temperature setting. The door panels are really simplistic, a lot like the dashboard, but with much fewer buttons and even less curves. This door card reminds me quite a lot of those found in the 993 as well as the 968 from the 1980s and 90s. There has always been a strong sense of tradition with Porsche 911s, but it seems most apparent here in the 997. Then there is the weight to it. This must be the heaviest doors I have ever encountered, and I love it. The window switches are placed vertically next to the door handle, which I find rather interesting. Said door handle is made out of silver painted plastic and not aluminium, which rather surprised me, but according to Porsche at least, it was because of safety concerns. The door mirror switches is found right next to the door mirror itself, which I think is a really nice design cue. There is no hard, cheap plastics found on the door card whatsoever, with the lower part even being carpeted and the top of the doors finished in soft Napa leather. You really do get a sense of a no-nonsense design of this door cards, and I really like the massive speaker covers. It reminds me of those found in a W140 Mercedes S-Class. One last interesting thing has to do with the door open light. It looks like something that belongs on a Porsche 356 or first generation 911. It's such a cute detail. The steering wheel is a prime example of less is more. Simple 3-spoke wrapped in aluminium with the beautiful intricate Porsche logo residing in the middle. The rim is thick and wrapped in soft Napa leather. Then there is the steering mounted pedals for the PDK gearbox. They are also cold to the touch and give a very satisfying click when you operate them. Ooh. The dials of the 997 911 must be my favorite of any car I've ever been in. All the drive's information is divided into 5 interlocking circles. Front and center, like almost all Porsches ever, is the rev counter. The 2 circles to the left houses the speedometer as well as fuel temperature, while the 2 circles to the right communicates fuel level, oil level, and oil pressure. I really love the way the oil pressure needle jumps when I start the car. It gives it such a nice analog feel to it. The stalks look rather plain, but they feel very expensive in the operation. These sporty bucket seats may not have white or red contrast stitching, but they really do look the part. They are supremely supportive, even if they are a bit on the firm side. They are wrapped in soft Napa leather, and this beautiful logo is embossed into the integrated headrest. Now, considering that the 911 is a sports car, I am truly impressed by its storage solutions. An Alfa Romeo 4C or Mazda MX-5, this is not. You get access to a big, well-dampened glove box, very big door pockets that can be closed completely, a surprisingly deep area in front of the gear lever, a little ashtray compartment next to the handbrake, as well as a shallow but wide compartment underneath the center armrest. Now, at first glance, it doesn't really look as though the 911 has any cup holders, but they're actually just cleverly hidden. Right above the glove box, there is a silver strip with a little cup on it with a straw sticking out of it. You can push that open and see two more same cup logos that you can push again. Now, that reveals the cup holders as they slide out of the dash. The center strip can then be closed again to neaten the look. Now, this is hopelessly over-engineered, but I adore it. Okay, so I think it is safe to say that the rear seats are only really here for decoration. Even small children will find it a bit cramped back here. But the rear seat backs can be lowered to match the floor of the carpeted area behind the seats. This makes a big difference in the practicality of the 911, a very clever design. However, I do not want to sit back here anymore. The bonnet boot houses a space that is big enough for a couple of soft bags for a weekend trip, but it is by no means big. Also, because it is situated in the front of the car, there is a small latch you have to use in order to access it. This can hinder user-friendliness just a bit. The boot bonnet houses the magnificent engine, but you can't really see much of it. The opening is also comically small. I am so excited to find out how this car drives. I have read so many reviews and they seem to adore it. Let's see if I agree. Allow me to sum up how I feel with a couple of seconds. I feel really good. During my life, I have driven quite a few different types of cars, and most of them had very good qualities and some drawbacks, but none of them were perfect. With this Porsche, however, I have never been closer to pure driving pleasure. It feels as though it can do it all. Except for maybe going off-road, but Porsche has thought about that and presented a Cayenne for you. Driving this sports car around town is no more difficult than driving any other car on the road. The turning circle is surprisingly tight, and the PDK gearbox means that you don't need to worry about clutch control. The engine is extremely strong as well as responsive. Being naturally aspirated means no turbo lag. Rear parking sensors, a bumper that isn't ridiculously low, heel hold assist as well as light steering makes for stress-free commuting whether you're navigating rush hour traffic or tight parking bays. One thing to note, however, is that the front of the car isn't nearly as wide as the rear, so the rear view mirrors will become your new very best friends. Out on the open road, and the experience remains excellent. I am so surprised by how well this cabin is insulated from the outside world. The adaptive suspension does a fantastic job of keeping the car settled, and that engine provides more than enough oomph to overtake safely at highway speeds. Then there is the gearing. It is set up beautifully so that the car doesn't scream at you when you're driving at our national speed limit. Out on the twisties, and this car is perfection. This must be the most engaging car I've ever had the privilege of piloting. The steering is unbelievably responsive, and it gives the perfect amount of feedback. It feels as though you are the pivoting point and the car just turns around you. Such a great sense of control. Then there are the brakes. They are incredibly strong, which is great for when you want to take this car on a track. Yet, it is more than progressive enough to safely navigate slow corners and rush hour traffic. The gearbox is rather interesting. When I was driving this Porsche around town, I noticed that the gearbox is really smooth, but the trade-off is that I found it a bit sluggish, as well as slow to respond. I must say though, when giving the boot, this gearbox transforms into a mechanism worthy of the Porsche name. It is supremely quick to respond, but doesn't hunt for gears. And that's only when you leave it to its own devices. When in manual mode, you have complete control, and it is a joy to use these steering mounted paddles. I am truly impressed by this GTS. I have read and seen loads of reviews about these cars, and I have played Need for Speed Porsche Unleashed for years, but always thought that the 911 range is just a bit overrated. After actually driving one, however, my faith in motor journalism is completely restored. They were not overselling the 911. Accept its practical shortcomings and you'll be astounded by the smile to rand ratio. It is a bargain, and I want one. Please. Thank you so much for watching another one of my videos. If you enjoyed it, please remember to give this review a thumbs up, and if you haven't already, remember to subscribe to my channel for more excellent content. I have loads more lined up for you guys, so stay tuned. If you're interested in some behind the scenes footage and a peek into my personal life, be sure to follow me on social media, links in the description box below. I hope you guys have a fantastic day. Until next time, bye.